They told me the world was run by logic and numbers, that if I worked hard, kept my head down, and followed the rules, I could shape my own destiny. For 30 years, I believed that lie. My name is Daniel Creed. I used to be a data analyst at a private research institute that studied global communication, trends, harmless work, or so I thought. The institute's real clients were nameless organizations hidden behind shell companies. I didn't care. I was good at patterns, and patterns don't lie. It began on a night when the servers went silent. I was the only one left in the lab, surrounded by the cold blue glow of monitors. The system had frozen on a message that shouldn't have existed. "We see you, Daniel." No sender, no timestamp, just that line, pulsing once every few seconds like a heartbeat. I thought it was a prank. The next morning I found a sealed envelope on my desk, no name, no address. Inside was a single black card. Embossed on it, a symbol I'd only seen in conspiracy documentaries. An eye inside a triangle, drawn with microscopic precision. Under it, another line. "Knowledge is control. Control is life." At first I laughed. Then I realized the envelope had been placed between my keyboard and the desk, meaning whoever delivered it had been inside the lab after hours, and only 3 people, including me, had access. That week, my life began to splinter. My manager, a man named Keller, started acting differently. He would stop conversations the moment I entered a room. He called me into meetings I didn't belong in, asking vague questions about system security, about how data could be hidden, about whether information could be transmitted without leaving digital footprints. The questions sounded theoretical, but the look in his eyes wasn't academic, it was hungry. I tried to ignore it. Then came the second message. Not on my computer this time, on my phone. A video file, 5 seconds long. It showed a live feed from my apartment window. The message underneath said, "Stop looking where we told you not to." I froze. I hadn't looked anywhere special, or so I thought. But when I retraced my steps, I realized that the only unusual thing I'd done that week was open a locked directory labeled Cognitive Archives, Historical. It contained encrypted files referencing continuity protocols. When I tried to open one, it demanded an offline authentication key I didn't have, so I left it. Or I thought I did. That night I couldn't sleep. The shadows of my apartment felt alive, whispering in the hum of the city outside. Every flicker of light seemed deliberate. Every sound carried weight. By Friday, I decided to confront Keller. He denied everything, of course, smiling too calmly, like a man who'd already read the next page of my life before I did. He told me I was overworked, that maybe I should take a few days off. When I returned to my desk, my system access had been restricted. Half my folders were gone. My ID card no longer opened the server room. That's when I started to understand this wasn't about data theft or research protocols. It was about control, and I had brushed against something I was never meant to see. Over the next few days, strange patterns started appearing in the data sets I was analyzing. Not random errors, messages. Hidden strings repeating across unrelated files. They formed coordinates, dates, and what looked like names. I traced one of the names, V. Marcellus, and then discovered it belonged to a man who had died in 1843, yet the data log showed recent activity under his identity. The pattern grew. Each hidden signature linked to historical figures who had vanished without explanation, philosophers, inventors, economists, and each file ended with the same phrase, continuity preserved. I tried to share my findings with a colleague, Mira. She was the only person I trusted, sharp, skeptical, fearless. When I showed her the patterns, she frowned. "You realize what this looks like," she said. "Some kind of organized continuity of power, like a shadow government." She tried to laugh it off, but her voice trembled. That night her apartment burned down. The official report said it was an electrical short circuit, but I had walked past her building an hour before the fire. The street cameras had been disabled. Every single one. After her death, the institute sent me on administrative leave. I knew what that meant. Silence. Erase the trail. Forget what you saw, but I couldn't. I started digging on my own. Late nights, dark web forums, archived libraries, anywhere old knowledge survived. I discovered records of an ancient network calling itself the Continuum. It had existed under different names for centuries. The Keepers, the Arcana, the Illuminated. They believed knowledge was divine currency. and whoever controlled it could rewrite reality itself. At first I thought it was mythology. Then I found documents, linking my own institute to Shell, companies tracing back to a 17th century trust known as Lux Tenebris Holdings, Light from Darkness. Their signatures were everywhere, in patents, political donations, even cultural institutions. They didn't just watch the world, they steered it. The more I read, the more my reality fractured. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. People started following me, or maybe I was just seeing patterns again. The city lights blurred into symbols. Every billboard felt like a message. Every whisper of static seemed to know my name. Then one morning I woke to find a note slid under my door. It was handwritten in ink so black it seemed to absorb light. "Daniel," it said, "you were never meant to be an observer. We have been watching your curiosity grow. Join us before your knowledge consumes you." There was no signature, just a date and an address, an abandoned cathedral at the edge of the industrial district. I should have burned the note. Instead, I folded it and put it in my pocket. Because beneath the fear, something else had begun to grow, a cold, sharp hunger. If these people thought they could erase me, they were wrong. If knowledge was power, then I was going to steal theirs. That night I went to the cathedral. The gates were chained but unlocked, as if someone had been expecting me. Inside, candlelight flickered across, stone walls carved with geometric patterns, the same ones on the black card. In the center of the hall stood a single chair, facing a large circular mirror. When I stepped closer, I saw my own reflection. But behind me, shapes moved in the darkness. A voice echoed deep and calm. "Curiosity is a dangerous gift, Daniel." I turned, but no one was there. The mirror began to ripple like water, and from its surface a figure stepped through, a man in a black suit, face hidden behind a mask of mirrored glass. He carried another black card and placed it in my hand. "You've seen the edge of the veil," he said. "Now you must choose. Walk away and you'll forget. Step forward and you'll see the truth. But remember, knowledge demands obedience." The moment I blinked, he was gone. The card in my hand bore a single word: initiation. I stumbled out of the cathedral, the night air slicing through my lungs. Something inside me had changed. The world no longer looked random, it looked scripted. And I wasn't sure whether I was still the author of my own life. For 3 days after the cathedral, I couldn't tell what was dream and what was memory. I'd wake to the sound of whispering voices that stopped the moment I opened my eyes. Every clock in my apartment ticked at a different speed, as if time itself had started to fracture. I told myself I was imagining it, but my computer disagreed. The moment I turned it on, I found a hidden folder sitting on the desktop, one that hadn't been there before. Inside were files labeled with dates from my own life, the hospital I was born in, my school records, my psychological evaluations from the institute. They had been watching me long before I worked there. And that's when I stopped being afraid. Fear had served them. Obedience had protected them. Now it was time for something else. I knew I couldn't fight them with force. They were everywhere. But they had one weakness, their own arrogance. They believed no one could outsmart them because no one had ever tried to understand them from within. So I decided to become their mirror. I began with the data they left behind. Every encrypted message, every corrupted file I'd found over the years, I started mapping them. Hidden in the chaos were fractal sequences that repeated through centuries of recorded history. Each sequence linked to a location: libraries, old universities, forgotten vaults beneath government buildings. They weren't just data points. They were meeting places, echoes of the network that had survived through generations. I needed help, so I reached out to the one person I thought I'd lost, Mira. What the Institute called a fire was a cover-up. She had survived, and she had been hiding under a new identity. When she saw me, she didn't even look surprised. "They always go after the ones who ask the wrong questions," she said. "But if you're here, it means you're not done asking." For months, we worked in silence. She hacked through old government servers. I decoded the archives. Piece by piece, the picture emerged. A network not of individuals, but of knowledge systems, universities, corporations, media houses, think tanks, all subtly influenced by the same unseen design. They didn't need to control people directly. They just controlled what people believed. We decided to expose them, but we knew a direct leak would be shut down before it reached anyone. They controlled every major communication channel, So we created a plan that used their own obsession with control against them. We would feed the system. A single drop of poison in their perfect network. A virus disguised as knowledge. Not to destroy, but to reveal. The moment they tried to suppress it, it would copy itself across every connected archive, every mirrored database. It would open the doors they had sealed for centuries. We called it Erebus, the ancient word for darkness before creation. It took 6 months to build. We embedded it in the one place they would never suspect, within their own internal predictive model. Their continuity protocols ran on simulations of human behavior. Erebus hid inside those predictions, rewriting them from the inside out. When they updated their models, they would unknowingly release the truth themselves. But the closer we got, the stranger things became. At night, we both heard voices through the static of our equipment. Murmurs of distant conversations in languages neither of us understood. Sometimes the screens flickered with faces that weren't ours. Reflections that moved a second too late. Mira said we were getting too close to something that wasn't human. I told her we were already in it. The night we launched the virus, it was raining, the kind of storm that erases all sound. We sat in an abandoned warehouse, surrounded by humming servers we had stolen from our old institute. The code blinked on the screen. Line after line of living data, ready to merge with the continuity network. Mira looked at me and asked, "If this works, what happens to us?" I smiled. Then we finally stopped being ghosts. I pressed enter. For a moment, nothing happened. Then every light in the city went out. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy, like the world itself had stopped breathing. When the lights came back, the screens began to glow. Not just ours, every connected device across the globe. Phones, computers, billboards, even digital watches, all displaying the same message. Within minutes, classified archives opened to the public. Bank records, corporate dealings, political communications, and everything they had hidden began pouring into the open. The world didn't collapse. It awoke. Governments tried to contain it, but it was too late. Once knowledge is shared, it cannot be unlearned. The Continuum's control fractured under the weight of its own exposure. Their leaders vanished, their networks crumbled. But the world didn't become peaceful. It became aware. Mira disappeared soon after the release. No message, no trace. I searched for months, but deep down, I knew she had been taken. Or perhaps she had chosen to disappear before they found her again. I went underground. The world above changed, but not enough. For every secret revealed, new ones were born. People needed someone to blame, someone to follow. The faces changed, the systems adapted. But I kept watching. I became the whisper in their network, the shadow they once used to control others. One night, years later, I found another black card slipped under my door. It bore a new symbol, the same triangle, but cracked down the middle. Beneath it, a single line, obedience denied. Continuity reborn. I realized then that the Illuminati hadn't died. They had evolved, adapted to the transparency I'd unleashed. Where secrecy once protected them, chaos now empowered them. And maybe that was always their plan. Still, something inside me changed that night. I stopped fighting shadows and started understanding them. Knowledge isn't just control. It's contagion. And once you taste it, it never leaves you. Now, when people ask if the Illuminati are real, I tell them the truth. They're older than we can imagine, but not because of bloodlines or rituals. They survive because people need them to exist. A face to project their fear onto. A myth to explain the things that make no sense. And as long as knowledge is power, someone will always be willing to guard it, twist it, and use it. But me? I walk the spaces between their systems. I am the glitch in their continuity, the flaw in their perfect control. The same hunger that once blinded me now keeps me free. I learned that revenge isn't about destroying the enemy. It's about breaking their illusion. The moment they realize they're not God, that's the real victory. Sometimes in the silence of my apartment, I still hear the echo of that first message from years ago. "We see you, Daniel." I smile now when I hear it, because I see them too. If this story gave you chills, remember this. Every secret ever told was once a story someone wasn't supposed to hear. And sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply revealing the truth.